Okay, guys. So today we're going to start chapter 4. We're going to start with the history of the cell and talk about all the people that contributed to finding the cell and finding different things about the cell. So we already know this from chapter 1. The smallest living unit of any organism is the cell. Smaller than this, it's not considered living. Okay, organelles are not living. Here is a look, I thought this was a pretty cool GIF, of the inside of the cell. You guys can see there's a bunch of different things in the cell, and there's these little rope-like structures that actually anchor everything together. So, here's a prokaryotic cell. It's very simple. These are things like bacteria, okay? And this is a eukaryotic cell. This is what our cells look like. So, complexity-wise, you can see this one is very, it's very simple. This one, we've got a lot more stuff on the inside of it. Okay, so this is a prokaryotic cell. This is a eukaryotic cell. We are eukaryotes. These are the types of cells we have. Okay, so long time ago, 1800s, we came up with the cell theory. And there's 3 parts to the cell theory. First one, all living things are made up of cells. If you're living, you're made of cells. Cells make up everything in your body. That's number 2. They're the basic units of structure and function of living things. So they make up everything in your body. And then third, new cells are produced from existing cells. What does this mean? Well, put it in 2 simple words. Cells reproduce. That's it for number 3. All right? So there is your cell theory. Okay, so this is Robert Hooke. He was one of the earliest biologists. He, I think, worked with physics as well. But very early biologist, he started working with the microscope. And he was magnifying things and looking at things under his microscope. And he was looking at everything because people didn't have gaming consoles back then. And this is what we think he looks like, guys. Okay, Isaac Newton burned all his paintings, so we really don't know if that's truly what he looks like, but that's what we think. Okay. So again, his name was Robert Hooke. Sorry, I'm moving myself all around here. So he started looking at trees, actually, the bark off of trees, under his microscope. Now, he sliced them very, very, very thin. So I don't want you to think he got a big piece of bark and was like, here, let's look at this. No. He thinly sliced it and put it under his microscope. And what he noticed was, now they were not like this, but he noticed all these little things under his microscope. These are animal cells, okay? So his looked a little different. Animal cells are more round. Plant cells are more boxy. So whenever he was looking at it, he saw these little boxes, and he said, oh, these look like the cells that monks live in. They're just religious figures. So that's why he called them cells. These are human cells. To be more specific, these are lung cells. And if you notice, they look a lot different, the picture on the left compared to the picture on the right. Well, that's because in this region, right in here, it's lung cell, and that's a bad lung cell. That's a bad area, bad part of lung tissue there, and that is a tumor in lung tissue. So, not good. Not good. But we want it to look like the right there. Okay, so after we had Robert Hooke. So Robert Hooke discovered cells. Second guy, his name was Anton von Lievenhook. He looked at pond water. He looked at a bunch of things, not just pond water. People back then, guys, 1800s, dental hygiene wasn't a big thing back then, so they were like, let's look at everything. So they didn't always clean their teeth, so he just scraped out some gunk in his teeth and put it on his microscope slide and looked at that. But what Lievenhook discovered was that all these little things in the samples he took, they're real little. He called them bacteria. Okay, so he discovered bacteria. He said bacteria is made up of cells. After this, a little further into the 1800s, there was a German botanist. His name was Matthias Schleiden. He said that all plants are made of cells. So, once again, we have Hook. He said, hey, look, I found cells. Cool. Then we had Lievenhook, who said, hey, guess what? Bacteria is made of cells. Now we had Schleiden that said, oh, I got one better for you. Plants are made of cells. And then, after Schleiden, we had a guy named Theodore Schwann. Okay, real easy. Schwann is an animal. Schwann said that animals were made of cells. He concluded with that. Okay, so pretty easy there to remember that one. Okay, so moving further into the 1800s, this guy's name was Rudolph Verchow, and he determined that cells come from pre-existing cells. Okay, so what did Verchow do? He pretty much said, hey, guys, guess what? Cells reproduce. Cool. Okay. A little bit before this, but still during the time, we had Robert Brown, and he was looking at orchid plants. So these are our lovely, pretty orchids over here. Quite beautiful. He noticed this big, dark, central globule that was in plant cells, okay, so they're eukaryotic. And he said, oh, look, this big nodule is here, and we're going to call it the nucleus. So Brown discovered the nucleus. And I believe our last guy, his name was Felix Dew Jordan. Inside the cell, surrounding the nucleus, but inside of our cell membrane, he found this for lack of a better sound effect, this material, and he called it the cytoplasm. It was like a jelly-like material, holds all of our organelles, all of our cell structures in place. Okay, so that is everyone who just contributed to the cell. 7 people, right? So we had Hook discovered the cells. Lievenhook said bacteria is made of cells. Schleiden, he said plants are made of cells. Schwann, he said that animals are made of cells. Verchow, he said cells reproduce. Brown discovered the nucleus. And Dew Jordan, he discovered the cytoplasm. So there's all your 7 guys. Just recited them right back to you guys. Okay, so here's our summary of everything we already went over. Oh, look. Here's more cells. So much fun. Yay. Okay, so here are some cells, guys. What kind of cells are these? Well, these are brain cells, okay? Nerve cells, these types of cells. Look a little bit different than our normal cells. They're not round. They are more tentacly, I guess you could say. They have like little tentacles coming off of them. But now we're going to get into the cells. So we have prokaryotic cells and we have eukaryotic cells. Prokaryotic cells, they're pros. They don't need no nucleus. They don't have a nucleus. Eukaryotic cells, those are us. Those are plants. Those are fungus. Everything you can see is a eukaryotic cell. Very small organisms, those are going to be your prokaryotic cells. Bacteria, archaea, which live in hot springs. We talked about them earlier in the year. So prokaryotes, no nucleus. Eukaryotes, they have a nucleus. Other differences between them, we'll go over. But just so you guys know, the eukaryotic cell, in that nucleus, that is where we are going to store our DNA. So we store our DNA in a nucleus. We're eukaryotes. Okay, that's our control center. All right. No matter if it's a prokaryotic cell or a eukaryotic cell, and we went over this in chapter 1, they're all going to have DNA. They're all going to be surrounded by a cell membrane. Okay, what is going on here, right? So inside of our cell, guys, we have all these lovely organelles. If we were to crack a cell membrane, it would be like an egg. I thought that was cute. Yay. But the yolk of our egg, that is pretty much like the nucleus. Maybe not as big as that one, but that is the main part of our cell. So here's a size difference between prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. You can see animal and plant cells roughly the same size. Prokaryotic cells, they're about 10 times smaller than our eukaryotic cells. Okay. Excuse me. All right. So like I said, guys, they're prokaryotic cells generally smaller. Eukaryotic cells are bigger. Okay. Usually, like in that picture there, they're about 10 times. Can they be more? Yeah. Yeah, they can. Okay. Here's another depiction. Okay. This one's definitely more than 10 times smaller, our prokaryotic cell. Okay, prokaryotes, no organelles. We're going to go over a bunch of organelles this chapter. We're going to go over rough ER, smooth ER. We're going to go over Golgi, lysosomes, vacuoles, mitochondria, chloroplasts, all these fun and exciting things. Yeah, prokaryotes don't have any of them. The only thing prokaryotes have are ribosomes. And the ribosomes make proteins, if you guys recall from a previous chapter. Okay, eukaryotes, tons of organelles. All right. Plants, animals, fungi, protists, they all are eukaryotes. They all have a nucleus. They all store their DNA in the nucleus. They all have organelles. And here is a comparison between everything with prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Prokaryotes, they reproduce asexually. Eukaryotic cells, well, humans reproduce sexually, but our cells, actually, some of our cells, most of them in our body, produce asexually. Your lung cells, your brain cells, your heart cells, your muscle cells, your skin cells, they all produce asexually. Right? And then, this is important here. I'll write it in for you a little bit. Okay. Our size difference between our DNA, the eukaryotic DNA is a lot bigger than the prokaryotic, but the prokaryotic only has one circular DNA. Us, we have multiple strands of DNA, and our strands are all linear. Okay. So there's our difference. So prokaryotic DNA, guys, if we were to unravel it, it would form a very big circle, and it would be one big circle. Our DNA, if we were to unravel it, it would be a bunch of lines, and there would be many of them. Okay, so we will pick up here tomorrow, guys. Have a good rest of your day.